Hello everyone, welcome to IITN's GATE classes. So today our subject is electrical missions. So electrical missions is one of the core subjects for electrical engineers. Electrical missions is one of the core subjects for electrical and electronics engineers. So if you want to pursue your higher studies in electrical engineering, or if you want to do a core job in electrical engineering, electrical missions is one of the basic subjects you have to be thorough with. So in GATE point of view, you'll get around 8 to 12 marks from electrical missions. So you have to be very good. If not from the part of exam, some people can want to skip the subject from the because of the lengthiness of the subject, because this is one of the basic subjects. You have to learn it, and most importantly for interviews you'll definitely have to be prepared, have to be thorough with electrical missions. Okay, so 8 to 12 marks you'll get in GATE from electrical missions. So I can say the average is around 10 marks in GATE from electrical missions. So it depends upon the organizing institute which is conducting the GATE exam. So it varies from this organizing institute to institute. Okay, so the prerequisites to learn the subject is you have to be thorough with network theory as well as engineering mathematics. These two are the prerequisites for the subject electrical missions, and this subject is prerequisite if you want to study power electronics or power systems. So in case of power electronics and drives, basically drives is nothing but the motor drives, applications of electrical motors, and also for studying the subject power electronics you need to be thorough with electrical missions. Same as in case of power systems deals with transformers and synchronous missions, generators, and also that's why you have to be thorough with electrical missions. Okay, so for electrical missions the prerequisite is network theory, the basics of networks. You should be thorough with what you call electromagnetic induction, electrostatics, and all you should be thorough with. And mathematics is the basic subject for all the subjects in all the three subjects. So mathematics you should be good with engineering mathematics. Okay, so in electrical missions, the syllabus for electrical missions in GATE is this. The syllabus in GATE for electrical missions is this. You'll have here single phase transformers, you have DC missions, you have three phase transformers, you have three phase induction motors, and operating principle of single phase induction motors, synchronous missions. This is the syllabus for electrical missions in GATE. So if I broadly classify it, you have transformers, DC missions, induction motors or synchronous missions first, synchronous missions, transformers, sorry, induction missions, induction motors. So when I talk about transformers, you have again three phase transformers, and single phase transformers. There are special conditions of transformers we'll see in this, three phase transformers and single phase transformers. Coming to DC missions, again you have DC generator as well as DC motor. And synchronous missions, again you have synchronous generator or alternator and synchronous motor. We'll see the special cases in this. Induction motors, again you have three phase induction motors and single phase induction motors. So this is the broad syllabus for electrical missions in GATE. So in this induction motors you have single phase induction motors, the basic operating principles and all, only the operating principles. You don't have to go in depth in single phase induction motors for GATE. So if you see this, when I say DC machines and synchronous machines, I call them as generators and motors. But induction motors, why I call them induction motors? So induction generator is a part of induction motor. It's a special case in induction motor. We'll see that. Okay, so this is the syllabus for electrical machines in GATE. So what is an electrical machine? So what basically is an electrical machine? Here you can see there electrical machines are electromechanical energy converters. Electromechanical energy converters. So an electric motor is nothing but which converts electricity to mechanical power, while an electric generator converts mechanical power to electricity. Besides motors and generators, we have a third category which is called as transformers. They do not have any moving parts and are also energy converters, changing the voltage level of an alternating current, okay, from one value to another value. So there is one more classification. You can call them as electrical machine, as rotating electrical machines, and there is stationary electrical machine. So rotating, what you have, all the DC machines, you have synchronous machines, induction motors, all these are rotating machines. So basically what they do, they convert mechanical energy into electrical energy, or electrical energy into mechanical energy. Stationary machine, there is no rotating part. As the name indicates, it's stationary. You basically have transformers. Transformer is a stationary electrical machine which converts voltage and current from one value to another value, V1 V2, sorry, V1 to V2, I1 to I2. Okay, this is what you call it as transformer. So for today's class we'll deal with a topic in DC machines. Okay, what is a DC machine? Basically, what is a DC machine? As the name indicates, as the name indicates, DC in the sense direct current machine. In networks you might have studied direct current and alternating current. So direct current, the machines that deal with direct current is called as DC machine. So if you can see what is a DC machine here. DC machine is an electromechanical energy conversion device, which converts mechanical energy to electrical energy or vice versa. A DC machine is a bilateral machine. Okay, see here the electromechanical energy conversion which happens mechanical to electrical is called as generator, electrical to mechanical is called as DC motor. So is a bilateral machine, works on the principle of Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, uses commutator to get unidirectional torque or DC power output. Unidirectional torque in case of motors, DC power output in case of generators. So there is something called as commutator. We'll study about it, which converts the AC into DC. So when I say it's a DC machine, all that is generated in case of any rotating machine is always alternating in nature. So in order to get the direct DC power output from the alternating current generated, we use something called as commutator. So Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, for rotating machines you will always get alternating power or alternating what you call current. Okay, so when I say DC machine is a bilateral machine, what do I mean by a bilateral machine? See, if I have a DC machine, so if I give it mechanical energy as input, and I get electrical energy as output, you call this basically as a generator. Okay, so for the same DC machine, if I give electrical energy as input, and if I get mechanical energy as output, you call this as motoring action. So when you call bilateral mission, what do you mean by bilateral mission? For the same mission, at least theoretically, the same mission can be used either as generator or as a motor. So only change the inputs and outputs, you'll get change the inputs, you'll get the corresponding outputs. If you give mechanical energy as input, you'll get electrical energy as output, or if you give electrical energy as input, you'll get mechanical energy as output. So this mode is called generating mode, this is called as motoring mode. That is why you call it as a bilateral mission. Another example of bilateral mission is synchronous mission. At least theoretically, a synchronous mission is also a bilateral mission. Okay. So again, again, if you see what you call it as Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, you might have studied Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction in your network theory. Okay, so what basically Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction states is Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction states is you need, for voltage to be induced, you need three prerequisites. First one, conductors. You need to have conductors, you need to have magnetic field, third one, relative motion between 1 and 2. So you need to have conductors, you need to have magnetic field, and you need to have relative motion between 1 and 2. So one of them should be moving. So all the rotating missions, only one of these will be moving, not both. Okay, in order to get EMF generated in the conductors. Okay, in order to get EMF in the generated in the conductors, you need either conductors to be rotating or the magnetic field to be rotating. So conductors, group of conductors or winding is called as armature. This is what you call as armature. So you need either armature rotating or either your magnetic field as rotating in case of in case of electrical missions. So in case of DC missions, what we have conductors or armature as rotating and magnetic field stationary. Okay, you can either have magnetic field rotating or conductors rotating, but in case of DC missions, what we do is we have conductors or armature rotating and magnetic field stationary. Why? Because in order to help commutating action, in order to have commutating action, what does a commutator do? As I told you, commutator converts AC energy into DC. AC output into DC output, or the DC input to AC in the armature. So what you have, you will get AC generated in the armature, and in order to get DC output, we'll use something called as commutator. Commutator is placed on the armature and it rotates with the armature, and you collect current from the armature, what you call commutator, using brushes, using something called as brushes. Brushes are used to collect current from moving parts, moving armature, moving commutator. Okay, so this is basically DC mission. So I can have something like this, a DC mission. So this is north pole and south pole. So this will be my stationary magnetic field. So this is very important, at least from theoretical point of view. You'll have rotating armature and stationary magnetic field in case of DC missions. Why? In order to help commutating action. So this is important. Again, rotating armature and stationary magnetic field helps mainly for commutating action. So this was a direct bit in previous 1 mark question in previous year GATE papers. Okay, and in many competitive exams you will directly get something like this. Okay, there are other combinations for AC missions. Why we use the opposite in case of AC missions? There is a reason for that. We'll see it when we deal with that. Okay, for now, rotating armature and stationary magnetic field because of commutating action. So this is my magnetic field. Always it is pointed from north pole to south pole. North pole to south pole. Again, what else you have? An armature. Armature is nothing but armature is always rotating. Armature on the rotor and magnetic field on the stator. This is how. So from the rotating armature you'll have a commutator around it and you have something called as brushes which give you DC power output, which give you DC supply as output. So brushes are kept on the commutator and they are used to collect DC from the armature, okay, or the commutator. So this is a basic structure for a DC machine. This is the basic structure for a DC machine. You have magnetic field, you have armature, rotating armature, stationary magnetic field. So again, armature reaction. What is armature reaction? So this for today's class we'll deal with armature reaction. What is an armature reaction? The armature reaction is the effect of armature flux on the main field flux or main flux. So what do you mean by armature flux and what do you mean by main flux? See, this is the main field flux from the magnetic flux from the magnetic field from the stator has the main magnetic field, that is what you call it as main magnetic flux. Okay, the north pole to south pole flux is called the main flux, and there is armature carries nothing but your conductors. So when a current carrying conductor is there, there will always be flux around it. That flux interacts with this main flux, this flux interacts with the main flux, and that is what you call it as armature reaction. So when there is current inside this, you'll have flux around it. The direction of flux is given by in a current carrying conductor is given by corkscrew rule or right hand thumb rule. Okay, what is right hand thumb rule? If you place your right hand thumb in the direction of the current, the closed fingers of the right hand will point you the direction of flux. So if you see this, the pointing your thumb upwards, and if you see the closed fingers are in this way, so the flux will be created in this way. So this is what a right hand thumb rule is. So this flux happens when there is current in the armature. Okay, when there is current in the armature, there will be flux here. When there is a current in the armature, there will be flux here. This flux interacts with the main field flux and causes something called as armature reaction. So this phenomenon is called as armature reaction. So so is armature reaction desirable? No, it is not desirable. So there should only be the magnetic field or the main magnetic field, but armature flux comes into action because there is current in the armature conductors. Under no load there won't be any current in the armature. No current in the armature, so there is no flux around it. So there is no armature reaction effect under no load. When the machine is loaded, either it's a generator or a motor, there will definitely be armature reaction. So what is armature reaction again? The armature reaction is the effect of armature flux. What is armature flux? The flux created by the armature conductors which carry the current. Armature flux on the main field flux is called as armature reaction. So in a DC machine, the purpose of field winding or the main field winding is to produce magnetic field called main flux, whereas the purpose of armature winding is to carry current, armature current. So although the armature winding is not provided for the purpose of producing magnetic field, nevertheless the current in the armature winding will also produce magnetic flux. So the current in the armature winding is producing magnetic flux called as armature flux. So this armature flux interacts with the main flux called as armature reaction. The armature flux distorts and weakens the main flux. This armature flux distorts and weakens the main flux, posing problems for the proper operation of DC machine. So the action of armature flux on the main field flux is called as armature reaction. Okay, is it clear? So the effect of armature flux on the main field flux is nothing but armature reaction. What it does, it distorts and weakens. So the distortion effect is called as cross magnetizing effect. Weakening effect is called as demagnetizing effect. We'll see it. So this is what armature reaction is. So in order to study armature reaction, what we do is we'll consider see a DC machine only with the main flux, only with the armature flux, and we'll see one case only with the main field flux, only with the armature flux, and the third case we'll see when both are acting. Okay, so the first case only with main magnetic flux acting alone. So this is what your north pole and south pole. So the flux is always from north pole to south pole. Externally it's always from north pole to south pole. So this is my armature and these are my armature conductors. So presently I assume there is no current in the armature conductors. I'm only concentrating on main magnetic flux. Okay, so this is what it is, north pole to south pole. So this is what you call it as a direct axis. What you call D axis is nothing but direct axis. Direct axis. So why do you call it as direct axis? Direct axis is nothing but along with the poles, polar axis. Interpolar axis is called the polar axis is called as direct axis, and there is something called as q axis. What is q axis? Is nothing but quadrature axis. Quadrature axis. What do you mean by quadrature axis? So the name itself indicates quadrature. It is in quadrature with the direct axis, 90 degrees to the 90 degrees to the direct axis, 90 degrees electrical to the direct axis. Okay, so it is always 90 degrees electrical to the direct axis, which is called as quadrature axis. And there is something called as GNA. GNA always lies between the poles, always lies between the poles, and this is called as geometrical neutral axis. GNA, what do you mean by GNA? GNA is called as geometrical neutral axis, and it always lies between the poles. So, and there is something called MNA. MNA, what do you mean by MNA? Magnetic neutral axis. Magnetic neutral axis is between the or like it is perpendicular to the air gap flux or air gap magnetic field. Okay, so you have direct axis, you have quadrature axis, q axis or quadrature axis, d axis or direct axis, and you have MNA, you have GNA. So GNA, MNA. So MNA is also called as brush axis. So brushes are always have to be along with the in line with the MNA. So this is why you call it as brush axis. So so if you see, this is my main magnetic field flux, main flux, which is pointed along the direct axis. We call it as phi f. OA or phi f is nothing but direct axis. Okay, so again, so this is what you have: direct axis, q axis, MNA and GNA. Okay, so if you see here, what is geometrical neutral axis? Is the axis that bisects the angle between the central line of adjacent poles. Okay, geometrical neutral axis is the axis that bisects the angle between the central line of adjacent poles. Clearly it is the axis of symmetry between two adjacent poles. So it is an axis of symmetry between adjacent poles. The magnetic neutral axis MNA is the axis drawn perpendicular to the mean direction of flux passing through the center of the armature. So it is the mean direction of flux in the armature. Clearly no EMF is produced in the armature conductors along this axis. We'll see this is important. Clearly no EMF is produced along the armature conductors along this axis because they cut no flux. With no current in the armature conductors, the MNA coincides with the GNA. In order to achieve sparkless commutation, the brushes must lie along the MNA. Okay, so basically in this case you have to see that the main magnetic flux direction is in this way, 0 to A or phi f along with the D axis. Okay, so this is important. No EMF is produced along this axis. Which axis? The magnetic neutral axis. Okay, so this is a case 2. Case 2 is armature flux acting alone. Okay, we'll consider only armature flux. See, as I told you, so there is current along the conductors. Okay, so if you see, this is my north pole, and this is my south pole. The main magnetic flux is in this direction, and the generator rotation is this. So you need to find the direction of current in these conductors. Okay, if you see this under the north pole, using something called as Fleming's right hand rule. Okay, Fleming's right hand rule. What is Fleming's right hand rule states? If you place your thumb, forefinger and middle finger perpendicular to each other of the right hand, your thumb will thumb pointing the direction of rotation, forefinger the magnetic flux, main field flux, then your middle finger points the direction of current, direction of induced voltage or induced current. So if you see this, you have you have the flux direction, you have the rotation direction. The direction of rotation is this way, so this is your flux. So this will be cross in the sense into the paper or into the board, and dot in the sense crosses and dots, dot in the sense outside the paper, outside the board or outside the paper. So these are crosses and dots. So by using Fleming's right hand rule, this is my cross and these are my dots. Okay, these are the direction of current in the conductors, armature conductors. Now if you want to know the direction of flux in this current carrying conductors, what you will use, as I told you, there is something called as thumb rule, right hand thumb rule. What do you mean by right hand thumb rule or corkscrew rule? Again, I told you. So if the direction is this, if the direction is into the paper, what happens? The corkscrew rule or right hand thumb rule, point your thumb in the direction of current and the closed fingers will point you the direction of flux. If I point my right hand here, thumb in this on this, the closed fingers will be along this way, okay, in the clockwise direction. So this is how my current magnetic flux under the north pole. So if this is north pole and in this direction, clockwise direction, under south pole it will be anti-clockwise direction. So overall, if you see in this air gap, the armature flux is pointing downwards. So this is phi A, okay, downwards armature flux, okay, along the Q axis or the GNA or the MNA, your armature flux is pointing. So when the important point here is, if there is an conductor here and here along the brushes or the brush axis, what happens? The EMF induction. If you see the EMF induction at these points, what happens is, see, the EMF is BLV sin theta. Dynamically induced EMF is given by BLV sin theta. So what is theta? Theta is the angle between the velocity vector and the direction of flux. See, this is the velocity vector at this point. Here it is this way, here it is this way. Okay. And this is the direction of flux, that's why I'm erasing it. Okay, so this is the velocity vector this way and this way. So this is your north pole to south pole flux. So this is the velocity vector. So if you see this at these two locations, at these 2 points, what happens? The flux, the velocity vector either along with this is the main field flux. So either it is making 0 degrees or 180 degrees. At both these places, 0 and 180 degrees, what is my sine value? It is 0. So there is no EMF induced at these 2 points. Okay, and sine value or the EMF will be maximum when the sine value or the theta value is 90 degrees. So this point and this point will have maximum values, and from here to here it decreases and it becomes lower, 0, again increases, decreases, 0, again keeps on increasing. This is how you will get your values outside the brushes as this. Okay, if you consider inside the brushes or like in the armature, you will get something like this. It increases, decreases, increases, decreases in the other direction. This is how you get. Okay, this is important. Along the brush axis there will be no EMF induced. Okay, next, armature flux acting alone. As we have seen, above figure shows the flux due to current flowing in the armature conductors alone. Okay, main poles unexcited will assume the armature conductors to the left of GNA carry current in cross. What do you mean by cross? Into the board, and those to the right carry current out. What do you mean by dot? It is outside the board. The direction of magnetic lines of force can be found by corkscrew rule or right hand thumb rule. It is clear that armature flux is directed downwards parallel to the brush axis. Okay, parallel to the brush axis. So this is when armature flux acting alone. So we have seen when the armature flux only when the magnetic flux acting alone, this is my field flux, and if I see this is my armature flux, it is downward. So now the resultant flux, when both main field flux as well as the armature flux acting at the same time. Okay, in a practical DC machine, you'll have both main field flux and armature flux acting at the same time. So what happens, if you see, there'll be here at this point, this is how the distraction is. So this is my main field flux and this is my armature flux. The resultant flux is the vector sum of main field flux and armature flux. This is somewhat like this, in this direction, phi r. Okay, so this is my resultant flux, direction of resultant flux. Okay, so this is considered as a generator rotation in this direction. Okay, see, so what happened because of this, there is my MNA shift, magnetic neutral axis. What do you mean by magnetic neutral axis? Where the effect of magnetic what you call magnetic flux is zero, or what you call the EMF induced because of this is zero. Okay, previously it is along the brush axis. Now it changed to from here to here. This is called as angle theta. This is the brush shift angle. What you call theta is nothing but your brush shift. The brushes are always have to be placed along with the MNA. So brush axis is nothing but your MNA. Okay, what is happening because of armature reaction? If you see this, the direction of resultant flux is this way. So there is a angle theta shift from of the MNA from here to here. Okay, this is my new MNA on load. Okay, and this angle theta depends upon the load on the mission. So if the load is increased, the angle theta will increase. Load is decreased, the angle theta will decrease. At no load, the angle theta is 0 and MNA will not move. MNA will coincide with the GNA and there is no armature reaction. So if you see, the figure shows the flux due to the main poles and that due to the current in armature conductors acting together when both the main field flux and armature flux acting together. The resultant flux phi r is the vector sum of main field flux phi a, phi f and armature flux phi a. These two, the resultant is phi r is the armature flux or the resultant flux. Since MNA is always perpendicular to the resultant flux, the MNA is shifted through an angle theta. Note that MNA is shifted in the direction of rotation in generator and opposite in the direction of rotation in case of motor. So this is generator action, this is my rotation. So MNA is shifted along the direction of rotation in case of generator. In case of motor, this is my direction of rotation. So it shifted opposite to the direction of rotation in case of motor. So this is important. In case of generators, the MNA is shifted along the direction, and in case of motor it is shifted in the opposite direction to the rotation of motor. So if you see all the three at the same time, this is how it is. This is only due to main magnetic flux along the direct axis. This is main flux, this is armature flux downwards as we have seen it. So the resultant of these two is something like this. Okay, so this is how you get. Okay, if we study more on this topic in this diagram, this is how it happens. See, this circuit, this diagram, if you see it, see this direction, this is the direction of generator rotation. This is the direction of generator rotation. Okay, generator is rotating in this. So always the see, this is my MNA. The conductors along this part will always have crosses. So the brushes, if the brushes are shifted here, always have crosses, here dots. Okay, so this is important. So the direction, this is called as something called as LPT, and this is called as TPT. again this is called as LPT and TPT. These are for the poles, okay. So LPT, in the sense, LPT is leading pole tip, and TPT is trailing pole tip, So when I say something as leading and something as trailing, what do I mean? It is not leading something, it is not trailing something. It simply means that in the direction of rotation of generator, the first pole tip that encounters is called as leading, the last tip is called as trailing. For this pole, this is the leading pole tip and this is the trailing pole tip. For this pole, this is the leading pole tip and this is the trailing pole tip. So what is happening here is, at leading pole tips there is reduction of flux. See here in this case what is happening, so this is my main flux, so this is my armature flux in this direction. So at this point the armature flux is direction this way, and here main field flux is this way. So what is happening, the resultant flux is the resultant effect is, it is slightly opposite to this, so there will be reduction in flux here, reduction. Okay, if you see here what is happening, the direction is this way and the main flux was also in the same way, so there is increase in the flux in here. Okay, there is a reduction in flux at this pole tips, there is an increase in flux at this pole tip. Same here also, what is happening, it is having this direction and this direction here. So what is happening here, there is reduction, increase. Okay, so for if you see this, there is reduction here and increase here. So what do you call this pole tip? This is the leading pole tip and this is the trailing pole tip. Again, this is the leading pole tip and this is the trailing pole tip. So at leading pole tips there is reduction in flux, at trailing pole tip there is increase in flux. Here also leading pole tip reduction in flux, and trailing pole tip there is increase in flux. So if you see, the conclusion is, at leading pole tip always the flux is reduced, at trailing pole tip the flux is increased. Again here also leading pole tip flux reduced and trailing pole tip the flux is increased. So if the decrease in flux at the leading pole tip is equal to the increase in flux at the trailing pole tip, then the average flux per pole will be same. If the if the decrease here is equal to the increase here, the average flux per pole will be same. But the decrease here is always more than the increase here. The increase here is not same as the decrease here because of the effect called as saturation. See here. See, because there will be increase in flux here, beyond a point the magnetic material gets saturated and there won't be increase in the fluxes there. Okay, there won't be any increase in the flux at the trailing pole tip because of saturation, because once the magnetic material is saturated there won't be any further increase of flux. So here if you see, at trailing pole tip, what is trailing pole tip? This is the trailing pole tip. This is the trailing pole tip and this is the leading pole tip. Okay, this is the leading pole tip, trailing pole tip. Again I'll write it here. This is my leading pole tip, trailing pole tip, leading pole tip and trailing pole tip. So at trailing pole tips, the armature flux adds to the main field flux, and at leading pole tips it opposes the main flux. Therefore there is a magnetizing effect at trailing pole tip, or strengthening effect at trailing pole tip, and weakening effect at leading pole tips. So leading pole tips there is a weakening effect, and trailing pole tips there is an strengthening effect. If the strengthening effect is equal to the weakening effect, the average flux under each pole will be same. If the strengthening here is equal to the weakening here, the average flux will be same, but the strengthening effect is always less than the weakening effect due to saturation at the trailing pole tip. So the trailing pole tips, what happens? Saturation happens and there will be reduction in flux. Therefore the average flux per pole decreases, which is said to be demagnetizing effect of armature reaction. What do you mean by demagnetizing effect? Demagnetizing effect is nothing but the decrease in flux, average flux per pole. Decrease in average flux per pole is called as demagnetizing effect. Due to armature reaction, air gap flux gets distorted. That means there is a non-uniform. Previously it is from here to here, North Pole to South Pole, but it got distorted. This distortion is called non-uniform flux distribution. This is called as cross-magnetizing effect of armature reaction. Okay, demagnetizing effect because of the saturation at trailing pole tips. Cross-magnetizing effect because the air gap flux is distorted, or non-uniform flux distribution. Demagnetizing effect is due to saturation at trailing pole tip in generators and leading pole tip in motors. Okay, what are the two effects of armature reaction? There is something called as CME of AR and DME of AR. What is CME of AR? Cross-magnetizing effect of armature reaction. Cross-magnetizing effect of armature reaction, demagnetizing effect of armature reaction. So what is demagnetizing effect of armature reaction? The reduction in net flux. The reduction in net flux is nothing but the average flux is reduced because of saturation. That is nothing but demagnetizing effect. What is cross-magnetizing effect? The distortion in the flux. Air gap flux gets distorted or non-uniform flux distribution happens, and this is what you call as cross-magnetizing effects of armature reaction. There are remedies for this cross-magnetizing as well as demagnetizing effect of armature reaction. Although demagnetizing effect cannot be completely nullified, or the cross-magnetizing effect, the main effect is there is a brush shift. Okay, there is a brush shift. So for every DC machine, the manufacturers will manufacture with the brushes giving what you call, there is a shift in the inherent shift in the brushes. Okay, but this shift actually varies with the load. Okay, so it's not a constant thing. You can't keep one constant what you call angle and call it done. So because it varies with the load, you have to keep on changing it. You can't keep on changing the brush position. That's why they set at the what you call the most used load percentage, and they calculate it theoretically, and they'll shift the brushes along the direction. Okay, this is what the manufacturers do. And if you see this, if you see here, one more thing is at the brushes. If you see in this diagram, this will be clear here. Here and before the brushes, the direction is this cross, and here after the brush there is dot. So when a conductor moves, crosses the brush, when a conductor crosses the brush, what happens? When a conductor crosses the brush, what happens? The direction of current changes. So this is something called as commutation. What do you mean by commutation? Commutation is nothing but the reversal of current direction, of current when a conductor, armature current, a conductor passes through the brush. Okay, when it passes through the brush, what happens? So this is completely rotating. So this is the conductor. Okay, this is one end of the conductor, this is the other end. So when it rotates this way, the conductor moves from here to here. Okay, so what happens here? The cross is becoming dot. That means the direction of current is getting reversed. This phenomenon is something called as commutation. So because of armature reaction, cross-magnetizing effect of armature reaction, what happens is there is a shift in brush axis, causing something called as delayed commutation. What do you mean by delayed commutation? The commutation is getting delayed by the angle theta. Because of delayed commutation, there will be something called as sparking at the brushes. So you have to keep on changing the brushes in order to get the sparkless commutation. There are other remedies, because you can't keep on changing the brush position with the load. There are other remedies for what you call this delayed commutation. We'll see it in the commutation topic. Okay, so again, if you see, the armature flux phi A is no longer vertically downward. So if you see in the previous slide, the armature flux is vertically downwards. Okay, armature flux is vertically downwards. So what happens now? The armature flux phi A is no longer vertically downward, but will be rotated in the direction of rotation through an angle theta. So this because of the new MNA, So this will be rotated. This is my new flux phi a. If it is Fa here, you can call it as mmf or the flux phi a. Now phi a can be resolved into rectangular components. So you have two components, phi c and phi d. You have two components, phi c and phi d. So phi d is called as demagnetizing component and phi c is called as cross magnetizing component of armature flux. So armature flux now got resolved into phi c and phi d. So why do you call as demagnetizing, cross magnetizing? This is my phi f main field flux. So phi f, it is opposing the main field flux, that's why you call it as demagnetizing. It is a quadrature, or it is crossing the main field flux, that's why I called it as cross magnetizing flux. Okay. So the armature flux got divided into phi c and phi d. Okay, phi a becomes phi c and phi d. Phi d is nothing but demagnetizing flux and cross magnetizing flux. So the component phi d is in direct opposition to the main field flux phi f. It has demagnetizing effect on the flux due to main poles. For this reason, this is called as demagnetizing or weakening component of armature reaction. Again, the flux phi c is at right angles to the main flux phi f, distorts the main flux. For this reason, it is called as cross magnetizing cross magnetizing component. So this is my cross magnetizing component because the main field flux, it is crossing the main field flux at 90 degrees or the right angles. Okay, this is called distorting effect or demagnetizing effect, sorry, cross magnetizing effect of the armature reaction. It may be noted that with increase in the armature current, both demagnetizing and distorting effects will increase, because with increase in armature current, the angle theta will change. The angle theta will change or will increase. With increase in the armature current, there will be increase in theta. So then both phi d and phi c will change or will increase with the increase in armature current. So this is basically about armature reaction. There is one more thing called the graphical representation of armature reaction. We'll see it when we do the actual class. Okay, this is for now about the armature reaction. So you can't expect a direct bit from the armature reaction, but a 1 mark bit can be given, but the concept here is important. The concept as it is for armature reaction is important in case of DC missions or synchronous missions. Okay, thank you.